New tonight, the state Senate passed a bill that puts into law a broad definition of anti-Semitism. It adopts the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition. Some critics worry about the implications for free speech now, particularly being critical of the state of Israel. The bill easily cleared the House earlier in the legislative session. For more on this bill, visit the NC Capitol section of WRAL.com. This evening, the Republican-led state House voted to override 3 vetoes from Democratic Governor Roy Cooper. 2 of the vetoes deal with juvenile justice reforms, and another allows billboard companies to cut down more trees. The third changes the rules for wearing masks in public and creates new penalties for protesters, while also loosening campaign finance rules. The state Senate is expected to override the vetoes as well, which would then make them law. For more information, you can visit the NC Capitol section of WRAL.com. Now, it could also get a lot more difficult soon to find vaping liquid. A bill on the way to the governor's desk tonight would ban the sale of any vaping products that are not already approved by the FDA. WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie is joining us live now at the state legislative building with why they took this vote. Laura.
Lena, backers of this bill say it's needed to get a handle on the proliferation of vape products. They say cheap imported vapes are contributing to the rapid increase in vaping among teens. The measure would create a state registry of vaping liquids and products that have been approved by the Federal Food and Drug Administration. Starting next March, those products will be the only ones vape shops and other retailers can legally sell in North Carolina. Unapproved products would be confiscated by the state, and the retailer could face fines of hundreds or thousands of dollars for repeat violations. Representative Aaron Perez said no one even knows what's in some of the imported products on shelves all over the state.
A UNC professor has likened the effort to curb youth vaping as a game of whack-a-mole. You try to understand what's in a product, what's going in the bodies of these young people, and it's just really hard to understand, and another one pops up. It's unmanageable.
Now, the only vape products that are currently approved by the FDA are made by 3 American tobacco companies. Retailers and vape store owners came to the legislature to tell lawmakers that this is going to cut into their profits and could result in stores having to close their doors. The governor will have 10 days to decide whether to sign this law, veto it, or let it become law without his signature. Laura Leslie, WRAL News, Raleigh.
Welcome back. Just into the WRAL Live Center. You're looking live at the Legislative Building, where our Laura Leslie reports that the State House has just passed that Senate bill that would allocate about $67 million in emergency funding for child care in the first half of the fiscal year. It passed unanimously. Of course, earlier this morning, child care advocates gathered there at the Legislative Building looking for some sort of help because some federal funding from the COVID era is going to end July 1st. And when that funding comes to an end, it's going to create a $300 million funding gap for child care in North Carolina. So this bill provides about $67 million to help fill at least some of that gap.
Right, not quite $300 million. Brian, thank you. So protesters were calling for state lawmakers to pass that funding, as Brian was talking about. And we have the video of the moment that it appears interfaith leaders here were detained by police inside the state legislative building. WRAL's Destiny Patterson is joining us outside the building now live, where they rallied today.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn it.
Efforts to make their voices heard.
I've asked you to lower your voices and leave the building. You failed to do so.
Ended with zip ties wrapped around demonstrators' wrists inside the legislative building.
Today, June 26th, we are back and we will not be ignored. We are moving forward together.
Not one step back.
This all comes down to keeping our child care centers open. In just a few days, federal funding runs out, leaving a $300 million gap. But state lawmakers are at a deadlock over the budget. House lawmakers unveiled a stopgap measure today that would offer short-term relief.
An early version of the bill would put aside $38 million for child care funding through September 30th.
This just makes sure that federal funds do not revert.
That money will help keep wages stable for child care workers. Without it, this group says hundreds of child care businesses will be forced to raise their prices or are at risk of closing down.
Child care workers cannot afford to make less, but the reality is that parents cannot afford to pay more. The lawmakers in this building should not go home before their jobs are done.
Advocates say $38 million is not enough. They say they need funding to fill the entire gap.
This is all because our children are worth the investment. Thank you.
Destiny Patterson, WRAL News, Raleigh.
Thank you, Destiny. So now that emergency funding bill goes to the state Senate. In their budget proposals, the House and Senate both included some funding for child care. However, they've reached a stalemate in budget negotiations. Republican leaders say they plan to do more on this issue when they come back to Raleigh in September.